Whipple Family Misadventures, Book 7, Mischief in Their Eyes, Chapter 2.
Okay.
Wade said, pulling down more children's clothes from the clothing rack, sorting through them until he found the one that would fit and handed it over.
Try this one.
Sometimes it seems like every day was a learning experience, like after he took a long, hard look at the crooked hack job that had been done to Silver's fur. He had been forced to finish shaving off almost all the rest of it to match. He had left his fading pink quills alone because the boys told him those would take months to grow back if removed. But he had found out Silver's skin was the same color as his muzzle, and he had been able to see the faded, healed burned marks that were usually hidden. But most importantly, it meant his son was now freezing cold most of the time, and Wade couldn't bear to see him shivering constantly, huddling up in a little ball in an attempt to try and stay warm. Hence the trip to the store to buy something to keep him warm for the next few weeks until his fur grew back. However, buying him human clothes for his hedgehog son was a lot more difficult than it looked, because as Wade found out when he had got him hoodies a few months ago, when an article of clothing had to be pulled over his head, it meant that it had to be big enough to fit over his quills, which was rather difficult, as human clothes weren't made to do that, which meant everything had to be several sizes too big for him. The end result looked hilarious. Silver and Shadow were both the size of a human 2-year-old. For anything to fit over their heads comfortably, it had to fit the average 5 to 6-year-old child. Wade watched as Silver tried the hoodie he gave him on, how the fabric hung to his knees and the sleeves almost dragged on the ground. But he didn't know what else to do. Shopping was limited here. He didn't trust online shopping enough to spend money on something that might not fit properly, and they couldn't find anything casual enough that could just zip up the front. When Wade looked over at his other son, he noticed Shadow was staring anxiously at other people in the store, wrinkling his hands multiple times. Wade didn't know if he was getting lucky or just better at recognizing his kid's needs before it happened.
Hey, don't pay attention to them. They're not going to bother us.
He gently took him by the shoulders and turned him so he was facing the other way.
Look at us, not them.
Turning back to Silver, who tried to spin and then almost tripped before catching himself, Wade couldn't help but smile.
What do you think?
Silver spent a long time writing the material before staring at himself in the mirror.
I like the colors.
He had picked out one that was mint green and bright yellow. On him, it worked.
But I'm going to trip over my sleeves.
He waved his arms, making the two long sleeves flap like floppy noodles. Rubbing his chin, Wade studied him, thinking about that.
We can get them short so they don't do that.
Silver pulled the hood up, enough that it hung almost all the way over his face as he considered.
Whoa, when you do that, I can't see your spines or anything. Someone might actually think you're actually a human.
Shadow's eyes got wide as he stared at his brother.
Really? I could walk around and no one would realize I was a hedgehog and not a human?
Wade considered that, studying his son carefully for a moment. They had a point. He could only see Silver's shoes, and the hoodie was bulky enough that it would hide his non-human traits pretty well.
In theory, maybe, but you're also the size of a human toddler, and humans don't like their 2-year-olds to wander around unsupervised. So if someone did think you were a human, they would also think you were an unattended child and want to know where your parents were and then probably figure out what you actually are.
Silver pushed the hood back down again.
What do you think, bud? The best we can do is trim the sleeves so you don't trip over them. I can't find anything else that would fit you.
Okay.
Shadow tugged on Wade's hand.
Can I have one too?
That surprised Wade, as Shadow rarely asked for anything. He didn't really see any reason why not, especially since having a hoodie wasn't that big of a deal.
Sure, go pick one out.
After Shadow had selected a black one to no one's surprise, and Silver decided on a second pink and yellow one, Wade paid for all three and led the two of them out of the store. They finished. He was considering what else needed to be done when his phone started buzzing in his pocket. Wade took it out and answered, seeing it was Maddie.
Hi, Maddie.
Hi, when do you want to bring them for their blood draw?
He froze as he hadn't thought about that in days. The looming weekend with training and everything else had pushed it out of his mind. He knew it was important, but he had other more pressing stuff to deal with.
I was hoping to do it this week, but I assume Tom told you what's happening?
Yeah, he also told me you guys are taking the boys with you, which I initially laughed as I thought he was joking.
We have to.
There's really no one else who can watch them?
Wade shrugged and then remembered that she couldn't see him.
Not that I can find on short notice who wants 3 kids for a long weekend, and we have to leave to drive there tomorrow. So for your original question, maybe when we get back. I'll try to find time to bring them over.
Okay, but please don't forget, this is important and it should not be put off too long. I'll try to talk to you next week when you return about when it's a good time to come.
Sounds good. Have a good one.
Wade said before he hung up. Next to him, the boys had clearly heard every word, waiting anxiously for him to get off the phone.
What's happening next week? Where are you going this week?
Well, it's not where I'm going, it's where we are going. We are leaving tomorrow.
Wade said as cheerfully as he could. He wanted to frame this as an exciting thing, not the anxious thing he was actually dreading. He hadn't told them yet what was happening, as he had been hoping another solution would come up, and it sadly hadn't.
Why?
Tom and I have state police training we have to attend, and Maddie's going to be busy with the clinic. So you two and Sonic are coming with us.
What are we going to do? Come with you to the training?
No, you guys are going to stay in the hotel room during the day, not get discovered by anyone else, and just hang out and watch TV and read comics and such.
The fact that Wade knew he would have to leave them alone for several unattended hours a day in a strange place was not reassuring, but it was literally the best they could do in this situation.
And while we're on this trip, you both need to listen to Tom. If he tells you to do something, you do it.
He watched as confusion came over both their faces.
Wait, so here at home we don't have to listen to him?
What? No.
So we don't have to listen to him, or do we?
Wade closed his eyes and counted to 10 before he answered.
Okay, you listen to me, Melissa, and now Maddie and Tom at all times. That's not up for negotiation. You both understand?
He was relieved when they both nodded and didn't try to argue that point further.
What's the training you have to do?
It's just stuff for work. Policy changes for the state, upcoming events that they want us to know about. It's mostly boring work stuff, but it's required and I have to go and you guys can't stay alone by yourselves.
He didn't have to explain why for that last point. They both knew perfectly well why. Behind him, Silver had to trot to keep up, which reminded Wade to stop walking so fast and slow down a bit for them.
Are we going to be back before Saturday?
No, buddy, we're not going to be back until Monday.
But we were going to help Coral find Bigfoot this weekend.
Carl? As in crazy Carl?
Yeah?
He suddenly remembered that Crazy Carl had offered to watch them since he had known Melissa wouldn't have been able to do it this week. Wade hadn't agreed, but he remembered when the older man had asked. He was very curious about the alien kids and always wanted to know more about them.
When did you talk to Carl?
Last week?
And he wants to try and find Bigfoot with you guys?
Yeah. Toro thinks the reason why he can't find Bigfoot is because he's afraid of humans, or maybe he doesn't like them and doesn't want you guys to see him. But we're not human, so Coral wants us to help him see if we'll find him.
It took everything Wade had not to roll his eyes at the statement. At the idea of two of them out in the woods with Carl trying to find a mythical monster. Even worse, what if they dug up trouble or found something even worse?
Well, you'll have to do that some other weekend.
He said, hoping they would forget about it before then.
Any other questions?
Yes. Why is he called Bigfoot if he has 2 feet like everyone else? Shouldn't he have a different name? Who came up with his name?
Oh, we can ask him when we find him.
I meant questions about going on this trip.
Oh, then no.
His tone of voice must have been stricter than he intended, because both of them gave him a concerned look.
You're not mad, are you?
Silver asked, suddenly anxious, his ears slightly folded back.
No, I'm not mad. I'm just a little stressed out right now. There is a lot that could go wrong this weekend, and I don't want that to happen, but It's still worrying me.
He was silent for a moment before he realized something.
Why? Are you worried I'd be mad?
The gray hedgehog immediately frowned and his gaze shifted down to the ground. He scuffed his boots against the pavement for a moment.
Maybe a little. I don't want you to be mad at us.
You don't have to worry about that, buddy. I'm not mad at either of you. I just really need you guys to be good and listen to Tom and I, and to not get into trouble during this trip. That would be a big help.
A worried look came over Shadow's face.
Why are you stressed?
Well, remember how I said not everybody is okay with you guys, alien hedgehogs? So that's going to be all of the people in the place we're going to. They won't take it well if they find out about you guys. So you two and Sonic are going to have to stay out of sight the entire time. You can't let anyone see you, absolutely no one, which means no leaving the hotel room. You understand?
No one can see us?
No one, unless it's me or Tom. Those people are not used to alien kids, and let's just say it would be better if they don't learn. At least for this visit. We gotta think of it like a game, and we will win the game if we get through the whole weekend and no one at the hotel knows you guys were there.
What would happen if they do find out?
Wade's mind was instantly filled with the images of men in black, unmarked vans, and government agents trying to capture both of them, arresting him or worse. Images that filled him with paralyzing terror, knowing what could happen from one wrong misstep, and the fact that the boys had absolutely no idea.
You don't need to worry about that.
He said smoothly, hoping they didn't pick up on his subtle mood.
But I do need you two to promise that you'll stay hidden and out of sight. It's very important.
Okay.
He really hoped they understood how serious he was without having to resort to scaring them. It was a balancing act that he tried to walk, and most of the time didn't know how successful he was being. It wasn't fair that his kids had to deal with issues like this after they had already been through a lot.
But we can worry about that later.
Wade said in a more upbeat voice, taking each by the hand.
For now, we need to run some errands, like getting snacks and supplies for the trip tomorrow, along with getting some new movies that you guys can watch, or maybe some comics you haven't read yet, while Tom and I are working. Then we have to go home and pack and clean.
Clean?
Yep, we're going to clean everything up before we leave because I do not want to come home to a dirty house.